Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Gargoyles episode reviews. Today we're looking at City of Stone, Part 1. After stealing the Phoenix Gate and using it to make an abortive attempt at changing the past and thus the future, Demona realizes she's outmatched and so surrenders. Ha, never. She's scheming new schemes and dreaming old dreams. This time she's using the spells she tore from the Grimoire Arcanorum to take 1 minute of life from everyone who sees and hears the spell. She's convinced David Xanatos that she can confer those minutes upon herself and him. They'll have a big audience, too, anyone in range of a TV. Besides that, she's ruminating on her history, beginning with the Vikings' attack. Turns out she and Macbeth, yes, our Macbeth, are contemporaries. Meanwhile, Xanatos is discovering why the episode's title is City of Stone and why you don't give Demona even an iota of trust. There's magic afoot today, and nothing is as it seems. To get the full effect of the episode, go read or listen to Vows, the previous episode. Spoilers in the 2020 moments, info from Ask Greg are in the According to Greg bits. Season 2, Episode 9, City of Stone, Part 1, Reasons for Existence, to discover Demona and Macbeth's history, to introduce David Xanatos' interest in immortality. Main antagonists, Demona, the Hunter, Duncan, and David Xanatos. Times, November 9th the 10th, 1995, September 28th, and other days, 994 AD, and later years. Locations, New York City, New York, Castle Wyvern, Castle Moray, Edinburgh Castle, and unnamed locations in Scotland. City of Stone, Part 1. Here we are opening on a bunch of police cars around a bank. It helpfully says bank right on the front, so you know. Previously on Gargoyles. Macbeth doesn't just know Demona, he named her. I love saying that line with Russ Davies. Remember at the start of Season 2 when I talked about tent poles and tiers? City of Stone is tent pole 2, the start of tier 3 in the series. There are 4 episodes in COS. They're critical to understanding many of the forthcoming episodes. According to Greg, because City of Stone is so long and has so much packed into it, Greg initially thought this could be a direct-to-TV movie. Thankfully, his boss, Gary Crystal, the big bosses actually at this time period seem to know their stuff. They really made some good calls here. Gary Crystal vetoed Greg's idea. A movie should have the heroes in it more, he felt. That is a good call. It's much better to have this as episodes where the story doesn't get pressured. Crystal liked the Hunter character, though, so Greg got him to agree to 4 episodes. Then Greg promised he and Michael would use, and it's Michael Reeves, I guess, would use the Hunter more later. Hunter's Moon was the result, so early on in the season, they had an ending to shoot for. You can read Greg's full ramble on City of Stone, Part 1, at Station 8, and there's the link, and you'll just have to go do that yourself. It's very good. Causes and creepy kids. We open on a street full of police cars. Elisa and Matt are, of course, involved, since New York City's police force apparently consists of only about 10 or 11 officers. Or maybe less. I mean, you got Captain Chavez, Matt, Elisa, Morgan. I think that one guy that works with Morgan we saw once or twice. Yeah, so it's about like Mayberry, when they deputize, I don't know, Gomer and Aunt Bee and Opie. Alright, back to the standoff here. Anywho, Matt is playing hostage negotiator now. Yeah, he's got hidden talents, but this is not one of them. Because the terrorists start shooting the cop cars with lasers while yelling, "Our cause is worth any sacrifice." Matt, the object is to keep the terrorists calm. Fail. I don't know why he gets elected to be the negotiator. You'd think they'd want somebody who really specializes in this for this situation, but I guess it gets our characters involved. There's the perpetrator. She must be pretty devoted to her cause. It takes a lot of crazy to hold up a bank and take hostages. I mean, did you really think she's going to get away with that? Okay. According to Greg, after the attacks on the WTC by terrorists on 9/11/1, Disney edited out the word terrorist from the EPs. The word is still on the DVDs, thankfully. I like that we still have, the originality on the DVDs. Also, Greg didn't know what the terrorist cause was in the episode. That's kind of odd, since he seems to know absolutely everything else. At least the big things. Inside, the terrorists are holding Margot Yale and Brendan Quarters hostage. That's a weird last name, Quarters. 2020 moment. Margot is the assistant district attorney. That's why the cops are so careful here. Behind them are three young girls with flat faces and the weirdest pattern of hair growth I've ever seen. These triplets are totally identical, except for the hair color. They're wearing antiquated pseudo-horror movie sailor dresses, too. They're emotionless. The blonde one reassures no one in particular that it will be all over soon. I wish she hadn't opened her creepy mouth and used her creepy voice. I am anything but reassured now. To no viewer's surprise, the Gargoyles burst in and take out the terrorists. The lead fanatic is a coward when it comes to facing, quote, monsters. One of the creepy sisters, the black-haired one, says the cause is everything until her own life is threatened. Still, it's good you saved her. Blondie chimes in with, if you forget what she's forgotten, that every life is precious, then you'll be no different from her. Goliath says he'll never be like the terrorist he just took down. Whitehair clarifies, we were not talking about this terrorist. Okay. When Goliath looks back at the girls, they're gone. Vanished. Disappeared. Poof. I'm getting some Shining vibes here. I see my end in my beginning, and props to you if you recognized that reference to the Hannibal TV series. Meanwhile, Demona is smiling as she flies through the city. In her hand is a roll of papers. They look like the papers from the Grimnorum. The one she stole and has used many, many times. No, she only grabbed a few pages, and I'm going to say it again, but they must have been in the section marked really cool dangerous spells and had very tiny writing on them. Flashback. It's her and the captain trying to convince Goliath to take all the gargoyles from the castle. We get the second half of this now. Demona tells the captain that this ruins everything. He says he'll have the Vikings attack in the day and will protect the gargoyles. According to Greg, the Korean animation team had trouble remembering what Demona character model to use. She looks pretty old in this one. Demona tries to warn Othello and Desdemona, but she breaks off when she sees Vikings sneaking up. I still don't know why she didn't use her second-in-command power and just order everybody out. Say Goliath is in trouble or something. She takes her own precautions, though, and goes to a cave to turn to stone. We see her mistrust here. Also, how much of this is due to what she knows from her visit to the future in Vows? You'd think after seeing that, she'd do anything to get the clan out. But there's always a hope that things will be different. Maybe she thinks that what she has done so far will prevent it. She wakes up and finds the clan in ruins. Imagine the double horror of realizing that even though her older self warned her of this outcome, it happened despite all her efforts to prevent it. You think maybe that's part of what cemented the whole we should wipe out the humans idea? Since it looks like older Demona was right. How futile were her struggles. She must feel impotent now, like she's got no control over life. She picks up a bit of rubble. It's the half of Othello/Goldstone's face. She says the classic line, what have they done to you? So the blame starts. If things had gone her way, she believes, they'd all have lived happily ever after. I think she's wrong. The humans would have come back to reclaim the castle. They said it was haunted, as was a reason for why people didn't come back. But I'm wondering if that legend might have been propagated by Magus, Princess Catherine, Tom's mom, just to keep people away. It still is, even if it's haunted, kind of weird that people didn't come back and take it over, because it wasn't totally destroyed. And at that time period, if it was so important then, why wouldn't it be important enough to rebuild? But maybe political things had changed and there just wasn't enough money. Who knows? Oh, so much pathos in Goliath finding his what he thinks is shattered Demona. Then Goliath returns. He mistakes a pile of rubble for his angel of the night. Suddenly, Demona is no longer the hardened warrior who betrayed the castle to the Vikings. Now she's guilty and scared. Like Adam and Eve in the garden, she flees. She rationalizes that she can't face him yet, but will return soon, and he'll be happy to see her. This is classic avoidance behavior. Goliath would have been exceedingly happy to see her right then, while he was screaming his sadness and rage over the loss of his beloved. There she is flying off, looking pretty freaked out. This is one of those moments where you scream, "Get back to your man." 2 ships passing. When she returns, she finds what remains of the clan turned to stone. Below, Catherine, Tom, and Magus are loading gargoyle eggs into the wagon. Those are some big, big eggs. They're all the same color, which I find kind of interesting since the gargoyle skin are not the same color. And in chickens, they're often different colors as well. You've got the blue, white, brown, and even different shades in the brown. And that's actually based on their genetics. And you can tell by what color their ears are, interestingly enough. So you think it might be somewhat similar with the gargoyles, but maybe not. So why does Demona trust Magus? Given his view of gargoyles, he's probably considering making the biggest omelet in Scotland. From what she knows of him, anyway. Demona barely spares them a glance. She's fixated on her love being stone at night. She kisses his stone form. Her tear runs down her face and onto his, then down as if the stone cries. Then she glides off. Oh, there's so much emotion in this scene. One tear unites them. Alright, hold up. Again, about the eggs, Demona. One of them might even be hers. She doesn't seem to care. At first, I want to write it off as her deciding the humans have it under control, but that makes 0 sense. Humans betrayed her. She wanted the castle to be free of the race. Now she's letting humans take the future of her clan. I can understand that her brain is not in a rational place, though, so maybe. 2020 moment. The scene is even more mystifying when you discover that indeed one of the eggs is Demona and Goliath. She knew, yet she does nothing. And yes, I know that the gargoyles consider all the eggs to be part of the clan. Like, they don't differentiate who's parents of whose. But that makes it even worse. That means they could all be hers. Like, she should be considering all those eggs to be her own flesh and blood. I don't know. She must have just been out of it. All right, here's another point. Obviously, some sort of sorcery is being used on the clan to keep them stone at night. Down there, in front of God and everyone, is Magus. Why doesn't Demona drop in on him and get some answers? At the least, you'd think she'd want to take some long-delayed revenge on Princess Catherine for being a stuck-up prick all these years. Like I say, Demona's just not thinking straight, as we see from her fleeing from Goliath. Also, wouldn't she try and get the Grimorum? She knows that that's still hanging around, and Magus is the one who has it, so at least shake him down for that. And maybe she could find a way to undo the spell. Well, how much did her inaction, as stated above, haunt her later? If there's one thing unaddressed guilt does, it's make a person bitter. That describes her. In an effort to avoid feeling guilty, she blames everyone else. This directs the hostility outward, but at the same time it's frustrating because it doesn't help the cause of her discomfort. It's like getting a splinter but deciding to relieve the pain by punching a wall instead of removing the foreign object. Years later, a random boy is going to the barn to tend the animals. He's not enjoying it either. He enters, wary, because the door was open. Demona lunges, scratching his face badly. She's been stealing the animals' food. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. She has no remorse for attacking the boy, either. That will teach you humans for betraying us, she says. Now we see how one act by humans has created a hatred for the entire race. Hate never stays the same size. It always grows. It's like cancer. Whoa there, Disney. S&P on vacation? There's actually some blood coming out between his fingers. Math matters. Now, back in 1995, Demona lands at Pack Media Studios. Oh boy. Inside, she rendezvous with Xanatos and Owen. Xanatos has broadcast equipment that will override all the networks in the city. Owen adds that it'll even override cable. They both seem pretty proud of this tech. And well, they should be. And that's actually two different types of tech. You got one, of course, that can override broadcasts that are sent through the air, but the other one, that's a lot more technically advanced. If it's going to override cable, that means it has to start at wherever that signal is originating from. And there's Xanatos leaning on his little machine there. Oh, look, he's in super casual mode, meaning he's scheming in earnest. Gotta love this guy. So, what's this scene about? Xanatos is not making her a star. Don't worry. Turns out those papers are indeed Grimorum spells. The spell will take a minute of life from everyone who sees and hears the spell. Then it will confer those extra minutes on her and Xanatos. She says that with so many people in the city, the minutes will equal centuries of extra life. It's how she's lived so long. So, now we know her secret. Or do we? Because if you only take 1 minute of life from people, I mean, think about it. Even if 100 people saw and heard your spell, that's only 100 minutes. That's not even 2 hours. You couldn't even watch a movie with that. And how many people are really going to be able to hear and see her spell way back there in the Middle Ages? You know, you can't really get many crowds, and the towns probably barely have 100 people each. So, I don't know. Sounds pretty fishy there. Okay, maybe if it had been a day of life, or a week, or a month, that's doable. I can believe that, but not a minute. Heck, even an hour would be better. Right, so according to Greg, September 18th, so a couple days after David was inducted into the Illuminati, was when, quote, Demona first approaches David Xanatos about her plan to gain immortality by stealing 1 minute of life from everyone who watches their hijacked broadcast. It's kind of funny that they are in contact with each other. I mean, when they leave, after their little schemes are foiled or semi-fulfilled, does Demona just go, well, hit me up if you come up with another plan? Or I wonder just how that works. You know, they just call each other on the cell phone, text. I don't think they had very good text capabilities back then. Alright, so hang on a minute. The population of New York City in 1995 was 7.35 million. That's the whole city, not just Manhattan. So a minute from everyone in the city, assuming the broadcast didn't get too far out of the Big Apple, would be 7.35 million. But since there are a lot of non-residents of NYC, let's be really generous and nudge it to 8 million. And that's assuming that everyone actually saw and heard it, which we know they wouldn't because not everyone watches TV, and not everyone can see, and not everyone can hear. But we are being generous. So, math time. 8 million minutes divided by 60 minutes equals 133,333.33 hours. Those divided by 24 hours equals 5,555 days. Alright, so divide that by 365 equals 15.22 years. Divide that by 2 people, you've got 7.6 years a person. Hey, Xanatos, you're a smart guy. You didn't check her math? I mean, 7-ish years is great, but for all this, let's be even more generous and say the whole state saw the broadcast. And yes, I know that it was really the writers who were bad at math. We could have solved this by upping the time that was stolen from each person. But that's not what they said in the show, so we're just going with minutes. Population of New York State in 95 was 18.52 million, so that's 35.24 years or 17.62 years per person. Alright, 17, not bad, but not centuries either. Let's widen it enormously to the population of the whole country. Alright, population in 95 in the US was 266.3 million, so 253.3 years a person. That's more like it, but that override system isn't that strong, the broadcast one. Also, you do that to the whole country, and that broadcast is going to get far more notice from the government than it would in just the city, which is also going to get notice from the government, but it's a lot easier to kind of write off. So, and I did this calculation just to show how sketchy the whole, oh, this is how I stayed alive for all these years idea is. So that's more like it. Now, also, what are the spell's specifics? Do those minutes go on the end of your life? Like when you're old? Or do they start right now? I'm thinking the latter, since Demona is still young looking. I'd want the whole lowdown if I was dealing with magic that played with my lifespan, thank you. Well, maybe Xanatos got the 411. I don't know. At any rate, it's nice to see him applying his efforts to something more lasting than, I don't know, toying with the gargoyles. I wonder, how does Owen feel about all this? How about Fox? Do they get in on the goods? Or does he want to maybe experiment on himself first? I don't know. That doesn't really seem very Xanatosian. David seems confident. Or does he? When he leaves Owen to act as cameraman, he murmurs to his right-hand man to either watch or listen to the spell, not both. Why? So it doesn't affect him, apparently. Again, why? What's 1 minute? If it's just about that, then it's a respect thing. Xanatos respects Owen, and the respect Xanatos demands from Demona for his people. But certainly looks like mistrust to me. But if he distrusts her so much, why does he leave her alone and give her such powerful technology? Oh, we shall never know. And here we've got Xanatos catching Owen by the arm. And behind them is Demona in the spotlight. Look at Xanatos' expression. He's gone from cool and confident to suspicious and defensive in 2 seconds flat. I know it looks like he and David are about to have a throwdown, but David's actually warning Owen. Owen already knows, of course, but this is just kind of driving it home for the audience. Alright, so I'm leaning toward him not trusting her. He's a wise man to be cautious, but I don't know if I'd trust her at all. She's been quite open about her hatred of the entire human race and her desire to wipe it out. I wouldn't believe she'd make an exception for me if I were Xanatos. I wouldn't believe she's going to share that life. Apparently, Xanatos has an urgent appointment somewhere else, because he ducks out before the filming. Does he mistrust her so much that he doesn't even want to be in the same neighborhood when she casts a spell? I don't think it's that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left Owen. It's something that David probably considers to be a done deal. Then he doesn't need to supervise. But again, then why act so mistrusting? Call me paranoid, because I am. But if I were in his position, I'd stay to make sure she did what she said. There's Demona. Casting spells always makes me really nervous when she got some light going around her. Is she making the rock sign? That's great. There's wind swirling around her. After David leaves, Demona starts the spell. Omnes conspecti, omnes auditi. In nocte usque ad saxum commutate, dum calum audeat. I don't know much Latin, but Owen does. The classical Brit education pays off. And they said learning a dead language was a waste of time. Okay, he flips out, and that's saying something for Owen. He suddenly realized that she's screwed them, and screwed them hard. But before he can kill the camera, Demona's magic slams him against the table. It's okay. That lumbar spine will grow back. According to Greg admits to cheating here, which is why I didn't bring it up earlier. She shouldn't have been able to work 2 spells at once. Throwing him into a chair and the other one. What with how magic works in the Gargoyles universe, but the other ways they thought of for her to take down Owen were clunky. Hey, at least Greg is honest. I can respect that, so I'm not gonna harp on that. Halftime. Wow, where to begin? This ep is all about Demona so far. It's quite nice to finally get some hard answers to the questions I've had about her history and her motivation. I love seeing how villains get to be the villains they are today. What's really going on with the spell? Demona doesn't pick simple spells, that's for sure. Just how much power does she have? With technology in the mix, there is no telling. Alright, and what's up with those creepy triplets? Chekhov's gun, that's all I can say so far. I know you want to find out the answers and enjoy my pithy yet scintillating commentary, so tune in next time for the conclusion of City of Stone Part 1. It's just the beginning of the story, though. So, what'd you think? You can leave a comment, see what you thought of the episode so far when you first watched it. And do you even like this tentpole 4-parter? Alright, well, remember to like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next